So, is it too bold of me to say best machine on the market for under $1,000? Well, I guess there's only one way to find out. Hello and welcome to the latest episode. If you are new to the channel, take a second to hit that little subscribe button in the corner to get all the latest tips, tricks, tutorials, and of course reviews like you are watching now. Obviously, starting the video with that statement is probably going to get some backs up before we even begin. But we do have the latest Sainsmart machine in the workshop at the moment, the Genmitsu 3030 Prover Max. It hits the market at just over $800, and whilst it does have a smaller work area of around 12 inches by 12 inches or 300 by 300, well, it does give you quite a bit of bang for your buck. So let's take a closer look at it now and see what it's all about. Now, I always start with the standard setup, which in this case is a 300 watt air-cooled spindle. And I do this for two reasons. The first is to show you that everything in the box is enough to get you up and running. You don't have to be concerned with upgrades before you've even begun. The second reason is to show you that even though this is considered a lower powered spindle at 300 watts, well, it can still achieve everything that you need it to. It's still going to machine your woods, your plastics and your acrylics. It can even do soft metals, such as we can see here with it machining this aluminium, and it's doing it with ease. You just have to slow the speeds down, obviously, to accommodate for the lower powered spindle. Now, the holder that it comes in will also take a laser as well as the 300 watt spindle, obviously, in the kit. They do provide a larger 65mm diameter holder. This will take your average trim router such as a Makita or Boa, and you can also fit a 1.5 kilowatt spindle in there as well. So if they give us the option to upgrade, well, we may as well put something with more power in and speed up our machining process. So a few bolts out, a few bolts back in, and that is the upgrade done. It is super simple, and that is also reflected in the build. We're talking 10 to 15 minutes from unboxing this to having everything ready. Sainsmart are doing a brilliant job of just making this very simple for users, especially if you are new to CNC, because you can be up and running in very little time. Now, before we dive in and start testing the router itself, let's talk about the hardware, because obviously that's where all your cash goes. It is what is effectively in this build. Now, every axis is running on HG15 linear rails, and if you're not familiar with the terminology, basically what that means is just everything is very supported and solid. There's no wobble, there's no movement, and as the axis run back and forth, it's going to be super smooth. Now, they're also running on a ball screw system, and again, if you don't know the terminology, it's just the best type of system, especially when combined with linear rails. It means every movement of the stepper motor is going to be very responsive in terms of the axis themselves, and also leading to better precision and better quality when it is machining. Now, all three of the axes are driven by NEMA 17 stepper motors. Now, some people may say these are a little bit small. They are rated at 1.7 amps, so they do still have quite a kick to them, but when combined with the ball screw drive mechanism as well, it just means it's going to have enough torque to be able to push that spindle and move the bed about no matter what material you are machining. The overall work area of the machine is 305 by 305 millimeters with a Z travel height of 80 millimeters. The overall footprint for the machine is 530 millimeters wide. That's including the offline controller but not the power box on the side. And in terms of the overall length you'll need, it's 620 millimeters to allow for the overhang of the bed sliding back and forth, with a total height of 420 millimeters. So ultimately, well, yeah, this is a very solid all metal machine that is just going to give us great results. So let's dive in now and start testing this. So a progressive depth test is a great way to start, and that's exactly what's just finished on the machine now. A 1/4 inch downcut bit running at 1500 millimeters per minute. We started at 2 millimeters deep, then 4 millimeters, then 6 millimeters, and would you look at that, 8 millimeters deep in one single pass with a 1/4 inch downcut bit, and it is doing it easily. Super clean result. That is an excellent output from this machine. So I moved on to some harder wood and did a test with both upcut and downcut bits in a piece of oak. Both performed well. Obviously the upcut bit will always leave a rougher finish in comparison to a downcut bit. I then moved on to a bowl bit in order to test this out. I've never used one before, so I was curious how it performed, and after doing some tests I moved on to produce a project that was a little bit more useful, a tray that I can obviously chuck some keys in. So what about metal? So I decided to get brave with the aluminium and dive straight in, turning this block into a turner's cube. Basically what that means is repeating the same process on 6 sides of the cube to get this beautiful result. Now it did have some minor flaws in it. Those were user error, not as a result of the machine, but overall it machined it really well, each side taking about 15 minutes to machine. Now 99% of everything I've done on this machine has been flawless, but I did find one issue. When you are running the machine, the limit switches for the y-axis are on the front and back of the base plate, and as the bed moves forward and back, well, it exposes them as it goes. Now, normally this wouldn't be an issue if you're machining things like wood, but when I was doing the turner's cube, that was spitting aluminium everywhere, and bits of aluminium must have got into the limit switches because it kept triggering them or giving them false alarms. But ultimately, if those limit switches were covered up, it would obviously avoid that happening, or even using different types of limit switches, such as induction ones, which are a more sealed unit, then it should stop that from happening. So definitely something to think about, Sainsmart, if you do a V2. So let's kick it up a bit, and I moved on to brass. I started doing multiple tests again with this, and at 1mm deep per pass, again it was machining very easily. So, okay, aluminium, brass, they are not the hardest of metals. But I mean, obviously a small setup like this with NEMA 17 motors obviously couldn't handle something like steel. So guess what I tried next? We put some steel in there and it started cutting through this. Now I was only doing small passes at like 0.2mm just because I wanted to see how it was handling it, and it was doing it okay. So I dropped a thicker piece of steel into this and started cutting through that. Now purely by user error, I ended up going 2mm deep in one single pass, and it cut it and left a nice finish as well. So super impressed with that, and to be honest with you, that was enough for me. I didn't really want to go deeper and risk damaging anything else on the machine. So yeah, super happy with that. Aluminium, brass and even steel handled them all. So one of the selling points for the 3030 Pro Max is that it comes ready to use a 4th axis, and that is exactly what you can see behind me here, the Sainsmart 4th axis that you can purchase as an additional accessory that works with this machine as well as the 4040 Pro. Now just to clarify, a 4th axis is more advanced than a typical rotary device that you sometimes see used on Gerbil based machines, so it is one of the reasons I say that it is a selling point. Now I have never actually used a true 4th axis, so I thought why not, let's get stuck in and give it a bit of a test. You will need software that can generate toolpaths for a 4th axis, and I use Desk Proto in this scenario. It can import 3D files quite easily and generate the toolpaths for them. I started machining into a piece of wood that was 32mm wide. It is just soft pine, making it an ideal material to start with. Given this is my first 4th axis job, I took the speeds relatively conservative, and this took approximately half an hour to machine, but you can see the great results straight off the machine without any sanding. And like earlier with a piece of wood tested, it was time to move on to a block of metal and see how it machined that, and again the results were amazing. Now if you've seen my previous reviews, you'll know I'm not normally a fan of offline controllers. I usually prefer to use a PC just because I think you get a lot more control over your machine. However, this does come with an offline controller, so I opted to try and use this as much as possible during this review. I probably used it for about 80 to 90% of all the work I did, and I have to be honest, I found it much easier than I was expecting. The navigation is fairly easy to use, and it is fairly simple to start jobs, and obviously you don't have to worry about leaving your PC on or that extra connection between the machine and the PC. So to be honest with you, I am starting to be converted over into using offline controllers. I still think you have more available control using software on a PC or laptop, but the bottom line is that performed really well. So has it impressed you? Because I know it has impressed me. I expected certain things from this machine. The ease of setup, machining wood, aluminium, possibly even brass. But what really did it for me was that 2mm deep cut into the steel. That is beyond what I expected. I was super impressed. because it just goes to show how rigid this machine is with all of the linear rails and that setup. Now, my statement at the start of the video was best machine under £1,000. Now, also factoring in that you would need to buy a router to achieve this, that still comes in at under £1,000 with probably change to spare. So I definitely stand by that statement. Obviously, it does have a smaller area than some other machines in that price bracket, but sometimes it is about quality over quantity, and that is what you're going to get with this. Better, more precise cuts because of how rigid that entire setup is. Now, if you are impressed and you are thinking of buying one, there are some affiliate links in the description area below. They will always take you to the best available prices for the machine. I may get a little bit back, but obviously that just helps keep the channel going and producing videos and tutorials for everyone. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and a big thank you from me for watching this video. Final thanks, as always, goes to my patrons. If you want to get involved for one-to-one help, giveaways and early access to content, then check out the Patreon links in the description area below. I will see everyone on the next episode.